Why is my son standing in a food line with the bread you fired him for giving away? Evelyn Whitmore's voice barely survived the crash of a metal tray hitting the church floor. 11-year-old Noah stood frozen in his gray hoodie, clutching a brown hearth and crown bag marked with a blue star, while 9-year-old Nia Reed held out his soup. Marcus, still wearing his flower-covered apron, checked Noah's allergy bracelet. Grant Holloway stepped forward. Don't let the boy open that bag. 3 hours earlier, the fluorescent lights above the Hearth and Crown Bakery loading area buzzed with the thin, nervous sound Marcus Reed had learned to ignore. The air smelled of warm wheat, industrial soap, and the faint sweetness of brioche cooling behind the steel doors. Marcus stood at the end of the packing table, broad hands moving carefully as he checked the final trays from the evening run. His denim apron was dusted white across the chest. Beneath his dark blue work shirt, the wedding ring he wore on a chain rested against his skin. Nia sat on a plastic chair near the employee lockers, finishing her math homework while she waited for his shift to end. Her inhaler was tucked into the side pocket of her purple backpack. Marcus had counted the remaining doses that morning. 16. The refill could wait 4 days if she stayed well. The rent could wait none. Near the front of the bakery, a camera crew adjusted soft lights around a display reading Warm Bread, Warm Community. Evelyn Whitmore had arrived from corporate in a charcoal suit, speaking quietly with her communications director, while employees straightened their uniforms and wiped counters that were already clean. Marcus watched her only long enough to notice that she listened without looking at the people speaking. Grant Holloway moved beside her with polished calm, one hand resting over his tie. Riverton has one of the lowest waste rates in the region, he told her. We run a disciplined operation. His smile was warm enough for the camera. It vanished whenever he turned toward the loading crew. A soft knock came from the rear service door. Marcus looked up. Through the narrow pane of glass, several children and 2 volunteers from St. Luke's waited near a white community van. One boy stood apart from the others. Gray hoodie, school collar underneath, arms folded tight against his stomach. Grant crossed the floor before Marcus could reach the door. They're early, he said pleasantly. Tell them to wait outside until the paperwork clears. The evening air was already cooling, and one of the younger children rubbed both hands over bare forearms. Marcus opened the inner door but kept the security latch in place. Give me 5 minutes, he told the volunteer. Then he looked at the boy in the gray hoodie. The child was staring at the bread racks, not with greed, but with the careful stillness of someone trying not to be noticed. Marcus knew that kind of stillness. You all right, son? The boy nodded too quickly. Do you have anything without peanuts? He asked. I'm not supposed to eat peanuts. Marcus's eyes dropped to the medical bracelet half hidden under the boy's sleeve. Behind him, Grant's shoes clicked once against the concrete. Marcus, he said, still wearing the polite voice he used around executives. Do not create a problem where there isn't one. Marcus did not answer. He looked from the bracelet to the cooling racks, then toward Nia, who had quietly opened her backpack and taken out the Blue Star stickers she used to decorate the donation bags. Evelyn glanced toward the rear door for the first time. Her expression did not soften, but something in the room had shifted enough to make her stop speaking. Grant noticed. He moved closer to Marcus and lowered his voice. Those trays are still company property. Marcus rested one hand on the steel table. Then let's check what the records say. As he turned toward the terminal, the reflective loading door caught Grant's image behind him. The manager was holding a white delivery folder edged with a purple stripe, the kind used for private catering orders, not food safety reports, and he slid it beneath his jacket the instant Marcus saw it. Marcus's eyes stayed on the purple-striped folder for half a second too long. Grant noticed. His hand flattened over the front of his jacket, and the professional smile returned before. Anyone else could follow Marcus's gaze. Is there a problem? Grant asked. I'm checking the donation log. That wasn't the question. The fluorescent lights hummed above them. Somewhere beyond the steel doors, cooling fans pushed warm air carrying the smell of wheat and almond glaze through the loading area. Marcus turned to the terminal and tapped his employee code into the worn keypad. The screen took longer than usual to wake. Behind him, Evelyn's communications director whispered that the camera crew was ready. Grant glanced toward the front of the bakery, then at the children waiting outside. "We cannot hand out food until inventory is reconciled," he said. "That protects the company and the community." The words sounded responsible. His tone made refusal feel almost charitable. Nia slid off the plastic chair and stood beside her father's backpack, clutching the sheet of Blue Star stickers against her chest. One of the younger employees looked at Marcus's flower-covered sleeves, then at Evelyn's tailored suit, as if the difference in fabric had already decided who would be believed. The terminal finally lit. Marcus selected the donation menu. For one brief moment, the screen showed a green line beside R17B24. Then Grant stepped between Marcus and Evelyn. "This is an internal matter," he said. "The children should not be exposed to an employee dispute." He asked a supervisor to guide the St. Luke's volunteers back outside. Noah tried to say something, but an adult volunteer touched his shoulder and told him they would sort it out. The boy looked at Marcus once before the door closed. Marcus lifted 2 fingers in a small promise that he had seen him. He did not ask the child to stay. He did not make Noah defend an adult's decision. Grant placed a red form on the steel table. Internal theft and food safety violation was printed across the top in block letters. Beneath it, Marcus's name had already been typed. "You removed 24 retail loaves without written authorization," Grant said. "That is not what happened. The footage is clear." The loading crew had gone quiet. A pallet jack stood abandoned near the wall, one wheel turned at an angle. Nia could hear 2 workers whispering near the lockers. One said Marcus had always been too soft. The other said people with bills sometimes did desperate things. Marcus heard them too, but his only movement was to take Nia's purple backpack from the floor and zip the inhaler pocket closed. Evelyn approached the table. She studied the red form, then Marcus. Her eyes paused on the wedding ring hanging beneath the open collar of his work shirt, but her voice remained controlled. "Did you carry company bread through that door?" "Yes." "Did Grant authorize it?" "The system did." Grant touched the remote. A monitor above the packing station flickered to life. 17 seconds of silent footage showed Marcus lifting 2 brown bags from the donation cart and walking through the rear door. The clip began at 7 hours 16 minutes and 8 seconds and stopped at 7 hours 16 minutes and 25 seconds. There was no image of the scanner. No green confirmation line. No child at the door. At the far edge of the steel panel, however, the reflection showed Grant holding the white folder with the purple stripe. He turned away from the monitor before the clip ended. "The camera lost coverage between 7:14 and 7:19, he said. Evelyn looked back at the timestamp. The picture on the screen was clear at 7:16. Grant cleared his throat. "The scanner feed," he corrected smoothly. "I meant the scanner feed." Marcus said nothing. He watched Evelyn notice the correction, then watched her set it aside because the official record still belonged to Grant. A human resources representative arrived with a tablet and spoke to Marcus in the gentle voice people used when delivering decisions they had not earned the right to soften. If he signed an acknowledgement of improper removal, she explained, the company might avoid referring the matter for further review. Marcus read the line twice. The bread was described as stolen retail inventory. "Change that sentence," he said. "We can't alter the standard form. Then I can't sign it." Grant folded his hands. "Think about your daughter before you make this harder." Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice did not rise. He placed one hand lightly on Nia's shoulder. "My daughter is why I won't teach her to sign a lie." Evelyn's expression changed by less than an inch. It was not belief. It was the first recognition that Marcus was refusing the easiest escape even though he clearly needed it. Still, she signed the termination order. His badge was disabled. His name was marked "Do not rehire pending theft review." By the time Marcus removed his apron, a hospital kitchen had already paused an interview request because the allegation had entered the company system. Bryce stood near the lockers with his phone angled low, pretending to check messages while recording Marcus return his keys. Marcus folded the apron carefully instead of dropping it. He handed Nia her homework. Then he asked the HR representative, in writing, to preserve the original camera file, the scanner history, the St. Luke's receipt log, and every access record connected to her 17B24. Grant gave a soft, almost sympathetic sigh. Good intentions do not erase theft. Marcus looked at the frozen timestamp on the monitor. And a policy doesn't turn a lie into a fact. As he led Nia toward the exit, Grant reached past the keyboard and closed a system window before Evelyn could see it. The screen vanished, but not before Marcus caught one line in the corner. Status changed at 7:18 by manager credential, 2 minutes after the camera supposedly stopped showing anything. The words manager credential stayed in Marcus's mind as the employee door locked behind him. Nia slipped her hand into his, her fingers small and warm against the flower caught in the lines of his palm. "Dad," she whispered, "did the bread do something wrong?" Marcus looked through the glass at the terminal Grant had just closed. "No, baby," he said. "Bread can't lie." The timestamp had been 7:18. 5 minutes earlier, the screen had still told the truth. At 7:13, Marcus had stood beside the donation cart with Noah waiting beyond the security latch. The boy's gray hoodie was too thin for the cold settling over the loading dock, but he kept his shoulders straight, as though being quiet could make hunger less visible. "Do you have anything without peanuts?" Noah had asked. "Severe allergy?" "Yes, sir." "Let me see the bracelet." The child pulled back his sleeve. A red medical band circled his wrist. The lettering rubbed pale at the edges from daily wear. Marcus read every word before he touched the bread. Behind him, the ovens clicked as they cooled, and the air held the soft smell of wheat beneath the sharper almond glaze from the brioche station. He moved Noah away from that side of the door, washed his hands again, changed gloves, and checked the production sheet twice. "Our 17B24. Whole wheat. Separate cooling rack. No peanut ingredients. No almond topping." Nia watched from beside the lockers, the blue star sticker sheet balanced on her math book. "Can this one have a star?" she asked. "Only if the bag stays clean." She peeled one slowly, tongue pressed against the corner of her mouth, then placed it near the folded top of the brown paper bag. The star landed slightly crooked. Nia reached to fix it, but Marcus stopped her gently. "Leave it. Somebody made it that way." She smiled and pressed the center flat with one fingertip. Marcus wrote beneath it in black marker, "No one eats alone. MR." He turned the bag over and copied the lot number beneath the bottom fold. It was an old habit one Grant had mocked before. Marcus trusted machines, but he trusted paper that could survive a power outage, a spilled cup, or a supervisor deciding a number had become inconvenient. At the terminal, he scanned B24. A green bar crossed the screen. Donation accepted. St. Luke's. 7:13 p.m. He heard the printer catch, then release a narrow receipt. Marcus placed the receipt beneath the clipboard instead of leaving it beside the terminal. "You keep too many little records," Grant said from the office doorway. "Little things become big things when nobody remembers them, right?" Marcus replied. Grant smiled as if patience were required when speaking to a man who worked with his hands. "You're a baker, Marcus, not an auditor." Marcus did not answer. He opened his lunch bag and took out the wrapped turkey sandwich he had packed before sunrise. It was the only food inside. The folded pharmacy notice beside it reminded him that Nia's inhaler refill was due. His checking account could cover the prescription or the late fee on rent, but not both until Friday. Noah saw the sandwich and shook his head. "I only asked for bread. You said you hadn't eaten since morning. Someone else might need it." Marcus held the sandwich out without making the boy reach. "Tonight, that someone is you." Noah accepted it with both hands. He did not tear it open. Instead, he looked toward the younger children waiting beside the St. Luke's van. "Can I split the bread with that little boy?" Marcus checked the child's food label first, then wrapped half the loaf separately to prevent cross-contact. He treated the request as normal, not noble, because children should not have to become extraordinary just to deserve dinner. Through the front corridor, Evelyn Whitmore paused beside the camera crew. She could not hear every word, but she saw Marcus kneel to Noah's eye level, saw him read the bracelet, and saw him give away his own unopened meal. Grant stepped into her line of sight. "He has trouble respecting inventory boundaries," he said softly. "He means well, but compassion without discipline creates liability." Evelyn's gaze remained on Marcus for 1 second longer before the communications director called her back to the display. She had seen the action, but not the green confirmation on the terminal. Grant waited until Marcus carried the donation bags toward St. Luke's. Then he entered the office, removed his management card, and glanced toward the loading crew as though checking that no one important was watching. He considered Nia unimportant. She was crouched near Marcus's backpack, trying to rescue a Blue Star sticker that had fallen onto the floor. From that low angle, she saw Grant press his card to the terminal. The machine gave a second beep. "Why did it say yes twice?" she asked when Marcus returned. Grant's hand froze above the keyboard. Marcus looked at the screen just before the window disappeared, and for the first time, he understood that his handwritten B24 beneath a child's bread bag might be the only record Grant had not been able to erase. The handwritten B24 beneath the bread bag did not clear Marcus Reed. At first, it made him look more deliberate. In the small administrative office at St. Luke's, Grant Holloway placed the brown bag beneath the fluorescent light and spoke with the careful patience of a man explaining an unpleasant fact. He wrote the number himself. "After checking the production sheet," Marcus said. "Or after taking the bread," Grant replied. The room smelled of vegetable soup, wet coats, and the lemon cleaner used on the folding tables. Outside the thin office door, metal spoons touched plastic trays while volunteers lowered their voices, aware that the CEO of Hearth and Crown Bakery was only a few feet away. Evelyn Whitmore stood at the end of the desk with Noah beside her. One hand rested on his shoulder. The other held Marcus's red termination report. She had not apologized, and Marcus had not asked her to. On the desk were 3 objects: the report, the St. Luke's food receipt, and the Blue Star bag Noah refused to surrender. "Let's be precise," Evelyn said. "The company record says R17B42. Marcus turned the bag over. "The bread says R17B24. Numbers can be written incorrectly." "Yes." "Bags can be switched." "Yes." Grant gave a small nod, as if Marcus had just supported his case. Marcus did not look at him. He pulled a pencil from beside the church calendar and drew 2 straight lines on the back of an unused donation form. One line began with the wheat mixer, passed through the allergen-controlled rack, and ended at the community cart. The second began at the brioche station, crossed the almond glaze table, and ended at retail packaging. He placed the bag between the 2 lines. "Which path could this loaf have taken?" he asked. "Noah Kiesaschin." No raised voice, just one question that made the office grow quieter. Noah's medical bracelet caught the light as he shifted beside his mother. Evelyn looked from the red allergy warning to the report in her hand. B42 was listed as almond brioche. The bag Noah carried contained plain whole wheat bread from a peanut-free production area. Grant leaned forward. "A bag does not prove what was originally inside it. Marcus could have replaced the contents after removing premium inventory. The explanation was possible. That was what made it useful." Evelyn did not dismiss it. Instead, she asked the St. Luke's coordinator for the receiving record. Mrs. Alvarez opened a blue binder and removed a carbon copy receipt stamped 7:21 p.m. It listed 12 whole wheat loaves, lot B24, received from Marcus Reed. Grant touched the corner of the paper before Evelyn could pick it up. "These forms are handwritten. They can be completed later." Mrs. Alvarez's mouth tightened, but Marcus spoke before she had to defend herself. "Check the church printer log." Grant looked at him. "What?" "The receipt number is generated when the delivery is entered. If she wrote it later, the number won't match the time." Evelyn's eyes paused on Marcus for the first time, as if his calm had become another piece of evidence she had not accounted for. She asked Mrs. Alvarez to pull the digital entry. While the coordinator worked, Evelyn called Noah's school. The release record showed that his scheduled ride had failed to arrive and that, under the school's after-hours safety policy, He had been transferred to St. Luke's at 6:58. Noah had not wandered into the neighborhood. He had not been coached by Marcus. He had been placed there by adults following procedure, then quietly waited for food. "I told the lady my phone died," Noah said. "She said I could wait inside." Grant smiled gently at him. "Of course you could, Noah. No one is blaming you." The use of his name made Evelyn turn. No one in the office had introduced Noah to Grant. Grant recovered without changing expression. Ms. Whitmore said it when she came in. She had, but only after Grant had already reached for the bag. The church computer chimed. Mrs. Alvarez printed the entry. Receipt created at 7:21, not afterward. Evelyn laid it beside the company report. "What time did B-24 leave the oven?" she asked. 6:47, Grant answered immediately. Marcus looked at him. The production schedule had not been brought into the room. Grant added, "Approximately. I know my bakery." Marcus said nothing, but Evelyn's fingers stopped on the edge of the red form. Nia, seated near the door with her sticker sheet, studied the papers the way a child studies adults when their words no longer match their faces. That paper was already read before. "Daddy gave him the bag," she said. Marcus gently touched her shoulder. "That's enough, baby." Evelyn did not question her further. She gathered the bag, the receipt, and the report, then ordered an outside audit instead of returning the matter to Grant's human resources team. She still did not say Marcus was innocent. She only said the records would be preserved. As everyone stood, Marcus noticed one final line on the company printout Grant had brought with him. B-24 had been changed to waste hold at 7:18, 3 minutes before St. Luke's officially received it, and 5 minutes after the scanner had accepted it as a donation. The 3-minute gap changed the question. It was no longer whether Marcus had carried bread through the rear door. It was who had changed an approved donation after the bread had already left the building. The next morning, an independent auditor named Dana Ruiz sealed the scanner terminal at Hearth and Crown Riverton with a strip of numbered blue tape. The bakery smelled of yeast and stainless steel cleaner, but no ovens were running. Without their usual heat and rhythm, the loading area felt less like a workplace than a room waiting to testify. Grant Holloway stood beside Evelyn in a navy suit, his voice composed. "I support a complete review. I only ask that we follow procedure and avoid turning a technical error into a public spectacle." Marcus arrived in his dark blue work shirt without his apron or employee badge. Nia was at school. He carried no folder, only a small notebook containing the times and lot numbers he had written during his shifts. Dana placed a plain brown test bag beside the scanner. "Show me exactly what you did at 7:13. Marcus washed his hands, dried them, and checked the test label before touching the bread. "This product is clear for donation," he said. "The destination is St. Luke's. Proceed. And record every screen." Grant's smile tightened. The auditor knows how to document an inspection. Marcus looked at Dana rather than Grant. "I wasn't questioning her." He scanned the test code, selected St. Luke's, confirmed the allergen field, and pressed submit. The terminal gave one clean beep. A green bar crossed the screen. Donation accepted. The printer pushed out a narrow receipt that curled against the metal tray. Dana handed the terminal to an hourly employee and asked her to change the status to waste hold. The employee tried. A red box appeared. Manager authorization required. "Use your employee number," Grant suggested. "It won't accept it," the woman said. "Try again." Her fingers trembled above the keypad. Several workers watched from beyond the yellow floor line, whispering beneath the hum of the air conditioner. Marcus saw the employee glance toward Grant with the frightened look of someone expecting to inherit blame simply because she was closest to the machine. "Don't make her repeat it," he said. Grant turned. "Excuse me?" The system answered. "She doesn't have permission. We are establishing certainty. Then test the permission, not the person." The employee lowered her hands. Evelyn's fingers slowly came off the closed audit folder. Dana inserted a supervisor test card. The terminal requested a 6-digit management code and physical badge confirmation. Only after both were entered did the waste hold option appear. The room became so quiet that the receipt printer cooling beneath the counter sounded unusually loud. Dana opened the equipment provider's service log. The B-24 donation was created by Marcus Reed at 7:13 p.m. It was changed at 7:18 p.m. from the branch manager's office terminal. Grant folded his arms. That terminal is used by more than one supervisor. The override also required a management badge, Dana said. My badge may have been left on my desk. His explanation came easily, almost generously, as though he were offering the investigation a reasonable path away from him. Dana requested the door access records. The monitor displayed a line of black text. Grant Holloway's badge had opened his private office at 7:17. The same credential authenticated the scanner change 1 minute later. A chair leg scraped once against the concrete, then stopped. Grant's eyes moved toward the workers behind the line. Someone could have taken my badge after I entered. Then we'll check the hallway footage, Evelyn said. It was the first instruction she had, given without looking to Grant for confirmation. She sent a message to corporate security, ordered every administrative credential frozen, and told Dana to preserve the original service logs outside the company network. Marcus did not smile. He did not look at Grant. Instead, he noticed the young employee still standing near the terminal with her shoulders drawn inward. Her name shouldn't go into the report as a failed operator, he said. She followed the permissions she was given. Dana nodded and corrected the note. Evelyn watched him do more to protect an hourly worker than to celebrate the first evidence supporting his own account. Grant stepped closer to her and lowered his voice. We should handle the rest privately. People are already misunderstanding what they've seen. What have they misunderstood? Evelyn asked. Grant paused only a fraction too long. A credential error is not proof of intent. He was right. The service log proved Marcus had told the truth about the donation, and it proved a manager-level credential had changed the record. It did not yet prove who held the badge or why the change had been made. Then Marcus's phone vibrated against the metal table. The hospital kitchen had withdrawn his pending interview because Hearth and Crown had not removed the theft review from his employment file. He read the message once, locked the screen, and returned his attention to Dana. Grant saw the notification and mistook Marcus's silence for defeat. This audit is personal for him now, he said. He needs it to save himself. Marcus placed the phone face down. That doesn't make the audit wrong. Dana continued scrolling through the service log. One altered donation became 4, became 12. By the time she reached the 6th month, 37 separate transactions marked donation accepted had been changed to waste hold with the same level of management access. And the bread attached to those records had never reached the disposal company. 37 approved donations had been changed to waste hold, yet not one matching load had reached Hearth and Crown's contracted disposal company. Dana Ruiz printed the transaction list until the machine ran out of paper. The final sheet slid halfway from the tray and stopped, leaving the loading area silent except for the air conditioner and the faint ticking of cooling metal. Where did the bread go? Evelyn asked. Grant Holloway loosened one finger beneath his collar. Waste records are often consolidated. Then show us the consolidated records. I'll have accounting assemble them. Dana placed her hand over the unfinished printout. Accounting already sent everything. Marcus stood beside the steel table, studying the repeated times rather than Grant's face. Most of the altered transactions happened between 7 o'clock and 8:30 p.m., after retail traffic slowed and before the overnight crew arrived. The same window in which hourly workers were cleaning ovens, stacking trays, and trusting supervisors to close the books. Dana connected the service log to the rear gate records. A white box truck with no company logo had entered the Riverton lot 17 times in 6 months. Each visit followed a large donation being changed to waste hold. The truck never drove toward the disposal facility. It went east. Corporate fuel cards had paid for those trips. Could be emergency transport, Grant said. For what? Evelyn asked. Overflow inventory. Community events. There are several possibilities. His voice remained measured, but he placed his phone face down when a new message appeared. Dana opened a folder of invoices from Willow Table Events. The quantities matched the missing bread almost loaf for loaf. Brioche, pastry trays, premium rolls. Lot B42 appeared on a breakfast invoice dated the morning after Grant had reported it destroyed. The company address belonged to Grant's brother-in-law. No one spoke for several seconds. Sunlight shifted across the loading door, catching the flour still trapped in scratches on the steel table where Marcus had folded his apron. Evelyn looked at the invoice, then at the red termination form that had carried her signature. "You told me B42 was taken by Marcus." Grant's mouth moved before sound came. "That was the information available at the time. Information you prepared. Based on the footage." Dana turned her laptop toward them. The 17-second clip used to fire Marcus had a different file hash from the original camera export. Someone had trimmed it, renamed it, and uploaded it to the personnel case less than 40 minutes before Marcus was called to the loading dock. Bryce Keller's login had performed the upload. Grant stepped closer to Evelyn. "This is becoming unnecessarily accusatory. We should continue with legal present." "Legal is present," Dana said. A corporate attorney near the doorway lifted her notebook without speaking. Marcus watched two overnight employees standing behind the yellow safety line. One was the young woman Grant had nearly blamed during the scanner test. The other kept rubbing his thumb over a burn scar on his wrist. Both looked afraid that 37 altered records would become 37 reasons to fire the people who had moved boxes under instruction. "Separate the decisions," Marcus said. Dana looked up. "Explain. Find who designed it, who got paid, who changed records, and who followed an order without knowing where the truck was going." Grant gave a thin laugh. "Now he wants to run the investigation." Marcus's eyes stayed on Dana. "I don't want people making $12 an hour blamed for paperwork they were never allowed to see." Evelyn's gaze settled on him. He had enough evidence to demand revenge. Instead, he was protecting workers who had once whispered that he might be a thief. Dana requested the corporate phone archive. A saved recording from 2 nights earlier crackled through the laptop speaker. Grant's voice came first, lower and sharper than the one he used in meetings. "Once the father is gone, the numbers settle." Bryce answered, "And the old footage? I'll handle it." The recording ended. Grant wiped one thumb along the edge of his phone. The father was an internal account name. Dana searched every account, project code, and vendor record. Nothing carried that name. The phrase appeared only once, 12 minutes after Marcus's termination was entered. Evelyn's assistant then brought in 3 destruction reports bearing Evelyn's electronic signature. Each had approved large write-offs. Each was signed while Evelyn was on an international flight with no company network access. For the first time, her control did not look like strength. It looked like distance someone had learned to exploit. The attorney placed a settlement packet in front of Marcus. Back pay. Cleared employment record. A confidential payment. A non-disclosure agreement. "You could end your part of this today," she said. Marcus read the first page, then pushed it back. "My record isn't the only thing they changed." The attorney began to respond, but Dana's laptop chimed. A hidden directory had appeared beneath Grant's archived account. Its name was Community Offset. Inside were copied signature credentials, encrypted payment lists, and a second video export. Evelyn slowly closed the settlement folder. Whatever was inside could no longer be handled as a private employment dispute, and she ordered the steel loading area preserved for a public evidentiary hearing. By 9 the next morning, the steel loading door at Hearth and Crown Riverton had been washed, photographed, and sealed with evidence tape, but the long table beneath it remained exactly where Grant Holloway had placed Marcus Reed's termination form. Folding chairs faced the loading bay in 3 controlled rows. Employees sat beside union representatives. St. Luke's coordinator Mrs. Alvarez sat near an independent auditor, and members of the board watched from behind a temporary barrier. Marcus entered without an apron, carrying only his small notebook. He did not look like a man arriving to win. He looked tired, careful, and unwilling to let another lie become permanent. Evelyn Whitmore stood beside the table but did not open the hearing. She had the authority to end it with one statement, yet she kept her hands folded and waited to see who would tell the truth when every word was being recorded. Grant arrived in a gray suit with corporate counsel at his side. "This review is necessary," he said, "but isolated access errors should not be confused with theft, conspiracy, or intentional harm. Then explain the records." "I intend to. All of them." The room quieted around the three short exchanges. The loading fans turned slowly overhead, pushing the smell of old flour and cold steel across the chairs. On the table, the Blue Star bread bag rested beside the red termination form, its wrinkled paper looking smaller than the damage built around it. Dana Ruiz began with the bag. Mrs. Alvarez confirmed St. Luke's received 12 B24 loaves at 7:21. The school release record placed Noah safely at the church before Marcus met him. The scanner service log showed Marcus created the donation at 7:13. Grant lifted one hand. "None of that proves I changed the status. My badge was accessible to supervisors, and the office terminal was not continuously monitored." For a moment, the explanation held. Board members glanced at one another. One attorney wrote something in the margin of her notes. Shared credentials were careless, but carelessness was not yet the same as deliberate fraud. Grant's voice grew steadier. Mr. Reed had recently challenged branch waste targets. He had reason to document events in a way that supported his personal disagreement with management. Several employees shifted in their chairs. The accusation sounded professional enough to create doubt without sounding cruel. Marcus walked to the steel door and picked up a piece of white chalk. He wrote 6 times in a straight vertical line. 7:13, donation accepted. 7:17, Grant's badge opened the private office. 7:18, B24 changed to waste hold. 7:21, St. Luke's receipt created. 7:34, community bus log recorded Noah. 8:02, Marcus's violation file opened. He stepped away from the timeline. "I'm not asking anyone to believe me," he said. "I'm asking him to explain the minutes." Grant looked at the writing. "A timeline does not identify the person holding a badge." "Correct." Marcus placed the chalk down. He did not push harder. He did not use the whispers in the room as permission to humiliate Grant. Dana introduced the hallway access report. The private office door had opened with Grant's badge, then closed from inside. No second supervisor entered before the status change. Grant answered quickly. "The hallway camera cannot see the terminal. Someone could have been inside before me." Dana played the available footage. The office had been empty when Grant entered. Still, the camera angle ended at the doorway. It did not show his hands on the keyboard. Grant's counsel leaned toward him, and for a second it seemed the missing interior angle might protect him. Then Evelyn placed the original 17-second clip beside the full security index. "Where is the source file?" she asked. "Server 3 automatically overwrote it," Grant replied. The head of corporate security slowly raised his eyes. "No one has identified the storage server in this hearing." Grant's lower lip tightened before his expression recovered. "I approved the installation. I know the system." Evelyn did not accuse him. She simply told security to record the answer word for word. Dana moved to the hidden directory called Community Offset. The folder required Evelyn's copied signature token and a second authorization code sent to a device registered under Grant's account. Grant called it an accounting archive and insisted the name referred to charitable tax offsets. For several seconds, the explanation seemed possible. The folder could not yet be opened, and encrypted files prove nothing until their contents are verified. Behind Mrs. Alvarez, Nia sat with her Blue Star sticker sheet folded in her lap. She did not testify or approach the table. When Marcus looked back, she only reached out and held 2 fingers around his hand, the same quiet signal he had given Noah at the door. Across the room, Bryce Keller stared at the sealed laptop as sweat darkened the collar of his shirt. His phone moved beneath the table. Dana's screen lit with a message copied from the secured employee network. They found the second export. Evelyn ordered all devices placed face up. Bryce's hand began to shake. "I need to speak without Mr. Holloway present," he said. Grant turned toward him with an expression that was almost kindness. "Bryce, don't let pressure make you say something you'll regret." Marcus stepped between neither man. "Let him speak where he can't be coached." Bryce was escorted to a separate room with Dana, counsel, and a union representative. 20 minutes later, they returned with no promise of immunity and a verified cloud address. Bryce admitted he had trimmed the footage but said Grant retained the original image set, profit schedule, and a second camera export in private storage. Dana entered the address. A progress bar appeared on the large monitor. The first recovered file opened as a photograph of Marcus handing Noah the brown bag. The blue star was visible. So was the handwritten B24. And reflected in the phone screen, Grant's fingers were already enlarging the lot number hours before he created the report accusing Marcus of taking B42. Dana selected the next file, labeled Original Export, and the room watched the loading circle turn as the uncut camera footage prepared to play. The loading circle vanished, and the original camera export filled the screen. At 7 hours 12 minutes and 41 seconds, Marcus Reed washed his hands, changed gloves, and checked Noah's red allergy bracelet. At 7 hours 13 minutes and 6 seconds, he scanned our 17B24. The terminal flash donation accepted, St. Luke's. At 7 hours 13 minutes and 19 seconds, he placed the bread inside the brown bag marked with Nia's crooked blue star. No one in the room moved. The projector fan became suddenly loud against the glass walls of the flagship atrium. The footage continued. Marcus carried the donation through the rear door. Grant Holloway waited until the door closed, entered his office, and used his management badge at 7:18. The status changed from donation accepted to waste hold. 2 minutes later, Bryce Keller appeared at the terminal and copied only the 17 seconds showing Marcus carrying the bags. Then another camera angle opened. A white Willow table truck backed toward the opposite loading door and received trays marked R17B42. The same premium lot Grant later accused Marcus of stealing. Grant's attorney shifted in his chair. The footage does not establish financial benefit. Dana Ruiz did not answer. She opened the community offset folder. A spreadsheet appeared beside the video. 37 altered donation entries, payments from Willow table events, copied electronic signature credentials belonging to Evelyn Whitmore, and a profit schedule dividing the proceeds. Grant's name appeared beside the largest share. Bryce's name appeared beside promised payments and the words branch lead upon completion. Grant reached for the water glass in front of him. His fingers struck the rim, and the glass tipped before he caught it. A thin line of water crossed the polished table and touched the corner of Marcus's red termination form. "Those files could have been assembled by anyone with access," Grant said. His voice had gone dry. Dana displayed the metadata. The folder had been created from Grant's office terminal. The copied signature token had been accessed through his badge credential. The photo recovered from his private cloud showed his fingers enlarging the handwritten B24 beneath Noah's bag 3 hours before he created a report naming B42. There was nowhere left for the error to hide. Grant looked toward Bryce. Bryce lowered his eyes. "He told me Marcus was becoming a problem," Bryce said. "He said if the father was gone, the numbers would settle." Grant's pen slipped from his hand and struck the glass tabletop with one clean sound. No one laughed. No one whispered. When Grant turned toward the front row and called Noah, a confused child, Marcus stepped between the cameras and the two children. He did not touch Grant. He did not raise his voice. "The records are adults," he said. "Question them." Evelyn stood. For the first time since the hearing began, she moved from behind the board's table and came to the center of the atrium. She opened Marcus's personnel file herself. "The theft finding against Marcus Reed is void," she said. "His termination is rescinded. Every hospital, bakery, agency, and employer that received this false report will receive a written correction today." She ordered his lost wages and benefits restored, along with documented costs caused by the allegation. Grant's access was terminated immediately. His employment ended for cause, and the financial records were referred to outside investigators. Bryce was dismissed for altering evidence. His cooperation would be documented, but it would not erase what he had done. Evelyn then announced an independent audit of every branch, two-person approval for donation changes, protected reporting outside local management, and direct access for community kitchens to verify deliveries. She did not say, procedures had failed. She said, I failed to verify the truth before using my authority against a man with less power than I had. Noah remained beside Mrs. Alvarez until Evelyn finished. Then he stood, carrying the same wrinkled brown bag from St. Luke's. He did not walk onto a stage. He only approached the table and placed it between the red termination form and the audit report. He didn't ask who my mother was, Noah said. He asked if I had eaten. Nia stepped forward far enough to place one new blue star beside the bag, then returned to Marcus and held his hand. The room went still. The air vents whispered above them. A phone vibrated inside someone's pocket and stopped. Through the glass, traffic moved soundlessly beyond the atrium while Evelyn folded Marcus's termination paper once, then again, until the word theft disappeared inside the crease. She placed two documents before him, an offer to return to his former job and an agreement giving him authority to redesign the food recovery system. Marcus looked at the first page, then at the second. He did not reach for the job offer. He rested one flower-scarred hand on the plan that could protect the next worker, the next child, and the next bag of bread, and the question left hanging in the silent room was not whether Marcus had won, but what he would choose to build now that the truth finally belonged to him. The atrium emptied without applause. Board members closed laptops. Reporters lowered their cameras, and employees moved past Marcus with the careful expressions of people who had watched a reputation restored, but could not undo the hours when they had doubted it. Outside investigators escorted Grant Holloway through a side corridor while corporate security collected his badge, phone, and office keys. Bryce Keller left separately with a union representative, his cooperation documented but his part in altering the footage still intact. Marcus did not watch either man go. He stood beside Nia, one hand resting on her shoulder, while Evelyn Whitmore signed the first correction letter herself. By noon, Hearth and Crown had sent notices to the hospital kitchen, regional bakeries, employment agencies, and every office that had received the theft allegation. Marcus's file was cleared. His lost wages and benefits were restored. The hospital kitchen called to reopen the interview, but Marcus asked them to wait. He had one decision to make before accepting anything that looked like rescue. The company offered him his old position, a larger salary, and a private office at the flagship headquarters. Marcus read the pages in silence, then set the first offer aside. I don't need a better room inside the same broken system, he said. Evelyn did not argue. She had seen him protect Noah from cameras, protect an hourly employee from blame, and protect workers who had once whispered behind his back. She understood that money could repair a missed paycheck, but it could not restore dignity unless the lie itself was corrected and the danger removed. Marcus accepted the second document only after rewriting its conditions. Every food donation would require 2 approvals before its status could be changed. Community kitchens would have direct access to delivery records. Hourly workers could stop a disposal order without retaliation. Ethics reports would bypass branch management and go to an independent auditor. Any false personnel report would have to be corrected everywhere it had been sent. Marcus agreed to serve as regional food recovery and bakery standards lead, but he refused the glass office. 6 months later, he still arrived before sunrise in his dark blue work shirt and flower-marked denim apron. He checked oven temperatures, inspected allergy zones, and showed new employees why one incorrect lot number could harm a child or hide a theft. On Wednesday afternoons, he worked at St. Luke's, reviewing safe meals and making sure no family had to explain its poverty before receiving food. A small emergency fund for children's medicine became part of the program after Marcus remembered the nights he had counted Nia's remaining inhaler doses beside the rent notice. Evelyn changed more slowly and without an audience. She attended counseling with Noah, updated every school emergency contact, and picked him up herself 3 days each week. Her phone stayed in her bag during dinner. She volunteered at St. Luke's without a communications team, and learned to ask workers what the reports could not show. She never asked Marcus to forgive her on a schedule. She let respect grow through promises kept when no one was watching. Noah stopped apologizing when he was hungry. Nia stopped watching adults' faces every time her father carried bread through a door. Neither child was asked to promote the company, testify again, or carry the weight of what the adults had done. They were allowed to return to homework, jokes, bus rides, and ordinary afternoons. The brown paper bag with the blue star was placed inside a small glass case at the first No One Eats Alone distribution center. The card beneath it did not mention Evelyn's title. It read, "This bag was once called stolen property. It fed a child and exposed the truth." The handwritten B24 was still visible beneath the fold. Months passed before Evelyn invited Marcus to coffee after a community meeting. He accepted without making it a promise. They spoke about grief, parenting, and the difficult work of trusting someone after power had been misused. There was no grand romance, only two adults learning that second chances require boundaries, time, and proof. On the morning the new distribution center opened, Nia hung the Blue Star sign above the entrance. Noah pulled an extra chair to the long wooden table. Evelyn placed her phone face down. Marcus touched the wedding ring resting on the chain beneath his shirt, cut the first warm loaf into 4 pieces, then placed a 5th portion on an empty plate for whoever might arrive late. The doors opened, and a family stepped inside. No one made a speech. Marcus simply stood and pulled out the chair, because dignity had never needed to raise its voice, and kindness had only been waiting for the truth to give it somewhere larger to go.